Monopoly Go, a seemingly innocent mobile game, has taken over the world by storm with some genius yet controversial tactics. It took the developers 7 years to craft this perfect, addicting game through hundreds of data-backed decisions, designing every single element down to the colors, animations, sound effects, and even phone vibrations to make sure players couldn't stop playing. And that includes myself. I played Monopoly Go for about a year, and I can safely say after reaching over 11,000 levels and dumping hundreds of hours into the game, I wasted my time, and tons of other people agree with me. So how did this random app suddenly become so popular, become the fastest mobile game ever to reach 3 billion in revenue, and use addicting design elements in a way that was so captivating that millions of people were hooked from the start and struggled to put it down? To answer those questions, we first need to meet the team that's behind all of it. This is Walter Driver. Back in the early 2000s, he had dreams of becoming a star-studded Hollywood actor and screenwriter, but when those dreams nosedived, he realized that he loved something else: creating games for Facebook. You see, in the late 2000s, creating mobile games wasn't really a thing yet, but creating games for Facebook had some serious potential. Take Farmville, for example, a game that made $235 million the year it was released. This inspired Walter to create his first game, Stardom, a game where you get famous by organizing events and parties. Now, the game was decently praised, but performance aside, it motivated Walter to keep going. He recruited a couple fellas, Anker, Eric, and Eden, and created Scopely in 2011. This small, super talented team went on to create more games for Facebook, including one devious title called Friend Buzz. Here, players would answer 20 questions about their Facebook friends, like, is Bobby smart, or is Lindsay a liar, or maybe, does Bethany smell like shit, and then they would see what their friends said about them after watching through some ads. Now, fun games like this were working out great for the quartet, but little did they know it was going to get a whole lot better for them. In the early 2010s, there was a huge shift where casual gaming took place. It was moving in troves from social networks to mobile phones, and being the sharp group they were, Walter and the boys capitalized on this. They started to hone in on creating mobile games for mobile phones with one goal in mind: create compelling enough games so their customers could never put them down. They applied this ideology to Dice with Buddies, which was essentially a knockoff of Hasbro-owned Yahtzee. And they designed this game so well that Hasbro themselves couldn't ignore how well it was performing. The toy behemoth ended up partnering with Scopely, letting them use their popular IPs like Yahtzee, Scrabble, and Monopoly to create officially licensed mobile games in exchange for a percentage of the revenue. Yahtzee with Buddies, which was just a reskinned version of Dice with Buddies, and Scrabble Go performed really well, with hundreds of thousands of downloads and millions of dollars in monthly revenue. But their performance was minuscule in comparison to the game they created with Monopoly. But before we talk about Monopoly Go, we need to understand how Scopely was so good at what they did. I mean, how did such a small team create such compelling games to the point where a huge company like Hasbro trusted them with their beloved IPs? Well, it came down to their genius game developing strategies and one tool that changed everything. What Scopely did better than every other game developer is data analysis. They realized early on that if they could understand exactly who is playing their games and how they played them, they could use that data to tweak everyone's experiences ever so slightly to maximize retention and, more importantly, profits. But if you think about it, that would be impossible to pull off. Scopely's games were being played by hundreds of millions of people, equating to billions and billions of hours of gameplay. Tracking this data by hand just wouldn't work, which is why they developed a secret internal tool to do it all for them. Do you remember this guy? Well, if you forgot from a couple minutes ago, this is Ankur Bulsara, a graduate in computer science from Cornell University, a previous software developer at MySpace, and one of the earliest team members of Scopely. This dude was an unreal asset of the company thanks to his creation of Playgami. Playgami was a tool that could track those billions and billions of hours of gameplay, and better yet, offer super niche analysis into every single person that contributed to those hours. It could track when users logged in, how long they would play, what they interacted with, and most important, when they made purchases. Ankur and the team could then analyze this extensive data and identify positive patterns in their users' gameplay. They could then group these patterns among players into different player types, segmenting their audience so they could tailor the gameplay and in-app offers to each type of player to ensure they were having the best experience experience possible in their games, which inevitably led to more in-app purchases. This is the exact strategy Scopely used for Yahtzee with Buddies and Scrabble Go, so it's no surprise that these data-backed games were instant #1 hits, generated millions of dollars in revenue, and had Hasbro drooling at the mouth. And you sure as hell believe Scopely applied these same principles to Monopoly Go, but with even more precision than any of their past games. When a team of 150 started creating Monopoly Go in 2016, Scopely's original idea for it was to create a semi-strategic game just like the real Monopoly, but later decided to dumb down the game to the point where it takes literally no skill at all. And I mean literally. The core mechanics of the game are simple. You roll dice, you earn cash, you build monuments, and repeat. That's it. But the game has a plethora of addicting mechanics to it that psychologically keep players engaged in this loop for hours, all thanks to the data and feedback from Playgami. Take the visuals and sound effects to start. Pretty much every time you hit the big red button at the bottom of the screen, you get rewarded. Colorful cash rains down, clusters of dice explode on the screen, fireworks shoot off like it's the 4th of July, and sound effects play while your phone vibrates with excitement. Each roll engages all of your senses all of the time, giving you an endless dopamine rush similar to what you would experience in a casino. But unlike a casino where you eventually get gutted for everything you own, you virtually never lose in this game. The only losses you take are from the jail, income tax, and luxury tax squares, and even when you roll to them, the fee you pay is vastly unproportional to how much you earn on a good square. Speaking of rolling, this mechanic alone took a year for Scopely to design to make sure it is as satisfying as possible for the player. They designed the roll so that when you get a low number, the dice take their time to land, teetering between one number and another to compensate for the fact that the game piece will only move a couple of squares. And if a player rolls a larger number, the piece will start to move even before the dice land. These small adjustments ensure that the game has a smooth, even tempo to it and always feels satisfying no matter what number you roll. But the satisfaction from rolling only grows when you factor in the social element to this game. Another psychological hack that Scopely has nailed down to a T. Players of Monopoly Go can add their friends to see what level they are, compete in never-ending live events together, and more. But the devious part of this aspect of the game is the fact that you can steal from them too. Branding on the railroad squares triggers one of two minigames. One where you can demolish your friends' buildings for cash, or straight up rob their cash in a bank heist. Now, if you target one of your friends over and over again, you can break through their shields and have a guaranteed way to make as much money as possible when you land on these squares. The receiving half of this dickening, which is your friend, gets a notification every time you hit one of their buildings or steal cash from them. Now, this system seems innocent at its core, but I swear to God, when I was playing, this aspect of the game was pivoting all of my friends against each other. I remember waking up to a screen full of notifications on the daily telling me my so-called friend was destroying my city. And of course, I would clap back that very second. I mean, I spent time building up Paris, like what the fuck. But my past beef with my friends aside, the wars the social element of the game would create generated tons of time played on the game. And as you played, you would use up the limited amount of rolls you had, which is another aspect of this game that Scopely mastered, and it was designed in a way to generate a shit ton of money. When you play Monopoly Go, you have a certain amount of rolls you can use before you run out and can't spin the slot machine, I mean the big red button, anymore. So when you run out of rolls, you're entranced in this psychological loop of rolling and getting rewarded, and your monkey brain wants to keep rolling to continue to feel good. And Scopely knows that. That's why when you run out of rolls, you get pop-ups to buy more rolls every single time. And this is just one of the many ways Scopely has nailed down microtransactions in Monopoly Go. I can go on and on and on about how they monetize every square inch of this game with pop-ups and never-ending deals, etc. But I think you get the point. You get hooked on the dopamine feedback loop, and when that loop ends, Scopely makes sure you have plenty of options to keep it going. Now, everything I just covered was worked on and tweaked for 7 years. Utilizing the data from Playgami with some personal input, Walter, Anker, and the rest of the team dedicated these over 2,500 days to make sure the visuals, sound effects, dice rolling, social elements, dopamine feedback loops, and monetization strategies combined to create the most satisfying and lucrative mobile game of all time. And that time was definitely well spent. On April 11th, 2023, Monopoly Go had an outstanding opening day of 500,000 downloads. downloads. The next month, that number jumped to 20 million, and the game had already earned $17 million in revenue. Within 2 months, it was deemed the biggest casual mobile game launch over the past 5 years, which includes COVID times when we were all glued to our phones, and was in the top 5 free mobile game charts in over 100 countries. Just 7 months after launch, it achieved 1 billion in revenue, the fastest casual game to do so in history. Just 3 months later, they doubled revenue to 2 billion, and 5 months after that, they hit 3 billion. Becoming the fastest mobile game to do so in just 473 days. At the same time, the now over 150 million people playing this game had sent over 300 million friend requests, passed go more than 100 billion times, landed in jail 15 billion times, and destroyed 50 billion landmarks. But were these people actually having fun playing this game? After a year from Monopoly Go's release date, a sentiment that the game was nothing more than a time-wasting money grab appeared across the internet. Monopoly doesn't offer any real-life benefits at all. It's all for what? Just to end up earning more dice, running out again, and wanting to get more dice? Seems like it's just never ending. It's a massive time waste with no end goal other than a bigger number. Feels rewarding for a while, but then you realize it has no end or finish, so you'll never be satisfied. Starting to actually lose sleep over this game. One person likened it to a Ponzi scheme designed for spending money. Another Reddit user admitted to lying to their boyfriend about spending money on the game and realized it was getting bad despite having only gambled at a casino maybe twice. And the worst that I saw was that someone's ex-husband had relapsed into his gambling addiction after playing this game. It's literally gambling. The only reason it's legal for all ages is because you don't get real money. But try any gambling money apps and you'll see they're basically the same thing. You put in money for dice and you get fake stickers. From these comments and many more, you can see that people had a sudden awakening at what they were getting themselves into on a daily basis. They were going crazy over how much of a hold this game had on their lives and how they were embarrassed spending so much money on a game that's pretty much a slot machine without any real money. And I can attest to the same thing. I spent a decent amount of money on this game too, and in hindsight, it was not worth it at all, and I absolutely hate myself for doing it. Now, despite my self-regret and many others, that doesn't mean everyone playing this game feels the same way. It's just important to know the addictive mechanics behind these games, and to make decisions for yourself if you think spending time on games like Monopoly Go are worth it. But a guaranteed way to spend your time wisely is checking out this video of mine that YouTube thinks you'll really like. So give it a go.